Welcome Elise here as our speaker for today. She joined us as a member a week ago, and so, gosh, that was quick, wasn't it? But we've talked about this topic for a bit. When we started to talk about it in Juneteenth, wasn't it? Anyway, you've seen the bio, I'm sure it's been printed in the program a couple of times, but I do want to say that she grew up in a neighborhood. She's a BOI, by the way. Everybody knows what that is, right? I'm proud of it, I'm thinking. Where she served as a junior patriot, filling her red wagon with tin cans and foil and fats and paper and rags. And in school, she sold U.S. stamps for bonds. Once the war was won, she turned her leadership skills to student government, and in particular to civil rights for all. Her passion for teaching history as a means of opening students' minds and encouraging them to develop their unique talents fearlessly led her to choose a career in teaching in Black universities, where she participated in sit-ins and contributed to student affairs. Back in Galveston since 1998, she has taken part in a number of civic organizations and enjoyed taking courses at Ollie. I'm delighted that you're here. Elise, come on up and get started.
Yes, and I'll start by taking a sip of water. Well, there are really more of you here than I thought. Congratulations. I don't feel alone. I'm happy to be here, and I'm happy to be speaking to you. And I hope that you can hear me and that the words that we listen to penetrate and bring us even closer together, because we are the world. We are wonderful representatives of the world. Now the problem, and there's always a problem, the problem is that we really are headed in the wrong direction. And as a Texan, and all of us here, with a few exceptions, are Texans, right? And do we understand that the way Texas goes is the way the United States is liable to go? Think about it. If the United States follows Texas, then where are we going? Now, there have been some events just the last week that I do want to mention. The Supreme Court decision that really destroys our judicial system. And also the fact that our president did stumble drastically in that debate. And now the Democrats are all in a mess, not knowing which way to go. And the way the U.S. goes is where the world is going to go. We are the world. Now, I was going to speak more about things like that, but on Juneteenth, I went to Ashton Villa and heard Grant Mitchell, the son of Cynthia and George Mitchell, speak. He gave the Juneteenth speech. And he started saying, here I am, a white man, relatively prosperous, asked to speak to an audience, a crowd, who was primarily African American. He said, I've never had such a humbling but satisfying thing to do. And so here's the speech that Grant Mitchell wrote and delivered. I was so impressed, and so was the crowd, that I just ran up and said, Grant, I've got to have that speech. And his cousin was there, and she said, well, why don't you just give the whole speech? Don't just quote here and there. So I said, that's a darn good idea. So here's the speech. And you have to understand now the situation. So it's on this national holiday, we are here to celebrate freedom. We should sing and dance and rejoice for blessed freedom. But we are also to remember those who never had it, and those who had it only in name, without justice. We honor them by speaking the truth. Remember 30-year-old Elise and her 2 young children, human beings sold here in Galveston. Imagine what she must have felt on hearing the news she was sold. Imagine the love and dreams she might have held for her young ones, despite the numbing reality that they were commodities, chattel. Remember the enslaved craftsmen who worked to construct this beautiful home. Yes, the very house we are in. And the desires those workers may have had to build a small business based on their formidable skills, to enrich themselves, not someone else who called himself their master. Remember the 250,000 enslaved people in Texas. Imagine their stories, their humanity. People with families, lives of interest and passions, moments of joy and loss and hopes and dreams and disappointments and pain, soul-crushing pain. People with families. And remember their enslavers, many whose names you will see on buildings here in Galveston. Remember the great wealth certain Galvestonians built in a cotton trade based on bondage. And think about the slavers and slave smugglers we call the heroes of the Texas Revolution. Think hard about who they were and what their motivations were as founders of Texas and leaders of a slave state. Look closely. Don't avert your gaze. It's not scary. It's liberating. Trauma. Slavery is America's national childhood trauma, which we have yet to overcome, making us too often brittle and broken, unable to reach our potential as a society. I am not a psychologist, but as I understand it, step number 1 in overcoming trauma involves reckoning with the truth. Not just the truth, as in the facts that happened, but your individual truth, as in how did what happened make you feel? With these truths as the foundation, healing trauma requires uncomfortable, honest conversations with yourself and with others. Just a few years ago, it seemed we began to undergo a racial reckoning. During that time, we made this great day a national holiday. But, folks, it seems like we're moving backwards. Is it just me? Or does it feel like we are moving backwards? Shame. There is a notion going around these days that nobody should feel shame or discomfort because of their race. And therefore, we should be careful what we teach our children or what we discuss in the workplace or in the public square. But that idea misses the point. I don't feel shame for my race. I feel shame when our communities can't face the truth. I feel shame when we as a society shade the truth, walk away from the truth, and yes, even embrace lies. I feel shame when our lawmakers forbid diversity, equity, and inclusion programs, programs that seek to ensure that we all belong. What is offensive about being deliberate in that? I don't know about you, but a diverse, equitable, inclusive society is one I want to live in. It's the society we deserve. And if we don't believe in that, we don't really believe in justice at all. I feel shame when our educators are intimidated into not teaching what is evidently true about our past and our present, or offering challenging perspectives. Teachers avoid talking about the racism that has been and remains embedded in our laws and our institutions. Because ambiguous government intervention in the classroom makes it a minefield to have meaningful discussions on the Jim Crow era, or redlining and lending, which kept minority neighborhoods undercapitalized. It's easier to not talk about the discrimination in the GI Bill, exacerbating the wealth gap, or how communities of color were bulldozed to build the interstate highway system, or racial disparities in the court system. Exposing kids to diverse perspectives is how you develop critical thinkers. Isn't that what education is for? But why risk a misstep and blow up your career? It's safer to pretend injustice never existed. Like a childhood trauma you can't face, you bury it deep and let it fester. Oh no. Let's not ask our young people to look there poking it at it might make things worse, uncomfortable. Let's soft pedal the facts and hide behind good slogans like the land of the free and the brave. We call ourselves brave. Let's be brave. Let's shout the truth. Let's grapple with the truth. We need to have courageous conversations on the basis of these truths. We need a tidal wave of courageous truth telling across this country. That's what bravery looks like. Only then can we begin to fully overcome our lingering trauma. True reconciliation is not easy, but we can't stop trying. By trafficking in half-truths and lies, we subjugate ourselves to a different type of bondage, an intellectual bondage, a moral bondage, an emotional bondage. The chains of ignorance bind our minds and keep us pinned to the ground. American exceptionalism. There's a story we tell ourselves that America is morally superior compared to other nations, that it is exceptional. Now, I'm not the first to point out the obvious. There is nothing exceptional about a nation that proclaims all men are created equal. It promises in its Constitution the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, and then codifies the institution of slavery. Except perhaps that it is exceptional in its hypocrisy or cruelty. America was born with exceptional ideals, yes, but it was also born deeply flawed. We need to be able to say that. It's okay to say it. It was created by humans, and humans are flawed. Exceptionalism is earned, not endowed. America can be exceptional. It is exceptional. You know when? When it looks directly and bravely at its flaws and changes course. The abolition of slavery is one example of our nation facing its flaws and changing direction. It's what brings us together today. But there are many others. The Voting Rights Act, the Reconstruction era, women's suffrage, civil rights legislation, marriage equality. These are all examples of American exceptionalism. All of these advances of freedom took courage, conviction, and struggle. It is in those moments when we live up to our own ideals, when we have the awareness to see our flaws and make amends, that we are exceptional. It's those moments that make me proud to be an American. Hiding from the truth, however, is a national shame. We can't change the past, but we will shape the future, for better or for worse. If we are to be exceptional, if we are to live up to the promise of America, we will bend the arc of history towards justice by listening to each other, being honest about how we have faltered, showing compassion, thinking critically, and bravely pressing toward a just world. It all starts with facing the truth head on. We are here to celebrate freedom, but truth and freedom are intertwined. As we celebrate freedom, we must also embrace the truth. As a wise man said, a divinely wise man said, "You shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free." Amen. Okay.